Miin Alikhan currently serves as the Vice President of Donor Impact and Accountability at the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. She brings more than 15 years of experience leading large-scale, complex, and results-driven change while building high-performing teams in healthcare and government. She has served as an Assistant Deputy Minister of Health and Executive Advisor to provincial ministries of health and healthcare organizations. As a frequent industry speaker on leading results-driven change, quality-based innovation in physician services and funding reform, Miin is also a certified healthcare executive and a recipient of numerous awards of excellence in health system leadership and mentorship. Welcome, Miin.
Good morning, Nadia. Thank you for having me on your speaker series.
No, thank you for joining us. And I guess I'll jump right into the questions. So you obviously have extensive experience in the public sector, and your past few roles have actually been first-generation roles, so newly created roles to turn performance around in organizations. So please tell us a bit about your career journey on that front.
Sure, I'm happy to. So currently, as you mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Donor Impact and Accountability, a first-generation portfolio here at the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. This is after a somewhat, I would say, serendipitous 25-year career journey that began as a frontline clinician, seeing patients at the bedside at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center and more broadly the University Health Network. I recall then seeing so many loopholes in our system as I was treating patients and seeing what their families were going through. So my decision to then pursue my graduate studies in health policy, management, and evaluation soon after seemed like a very logical one for me. I wanted to better understand the structures, processes, and levers to be able to make the kind of changes that I felt were needed within the system. Little did I know at that time that step would propel me into progressively senior roles over the next 15 years, taking on transformation mandates related to quality-based redesign, funding reform, physician and pharmaceutical negotiations, and federal, provincial, territorial relations. I've served largely in leadership roles in large academic hospitals and governments across different provinces. Roles that were primarily, as you mentioned, inaugural with no precedence or roadmap that involved either a build or a turnaround of some sort. Roles that have certainly challenged me and also, frankly, inspired me through the people who I had the immense privilege to work with.
So can you talk a bit about what it takes to lead change in a complex organization where there is resistance sometimes?
Of course. I think ultimately there are 5 variables to really consider. One is about understanding the why. So what's the burning platform? What's the vision that appeals to both hearts and minds? What's the case for the change? Secondly, creating a guiding coalition while actively listening to both the champions and the skeptics of this change, people who are ultimately, though, going to be responsible for implementing the changes. They will have the best insights. The third factor, I believe, is really around celebrating those early wins, as small as they may be. People are intrinsically motivated by progress and seeing their contributions, seeing how their contributions contributed to that progress. Now, this infers ensuring that you have an upfront understanding and transparency about the type of metrics you want to measure along the way to actually translate into progress. And it also infers having multiple communication channels to share that progress upfront. Fourth, really important to think about how you're going to consolidate gains from these changes to yield sustainable cascading effects. Frankly, I don't judge success by kind of one-off, measures. I judge success by the stickiness of the improvements that change makes. And fifth, and this may be a bit tangential, but I would say the fifth really important variable in terms of leading change is having faith and courage. Faith that everyone comes to their job trying to do the best that they can. I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning coming to their job planning on being a resistor. And so I've really come to understand that often it's not that people don't want to change. Sometimes they don't know how to change. So it's incumbent upon leaders who are, wanting to forge ahead with change to enable and empower their people with the tools and supports to be able to navigate that change. And courage, because leading change is not at all easy. And there will be times where even, you yourself will have doubts. Ultimately, I've learned people may not like the change, but if you earn their respect and trust while you're navigating the change, you will succeed.
I love what you said earlier that, it's not that people don't want to change, it's that oftentimes they don't know how to change. So I would love to hear you share an example of, a time when you successfully executed a transformational mandate.
Sure. No, happy to share. I think the best one perhaps that comes top of mind is one that frankly, I cut my teeth on, and that forever, I think, shaped the rest of my career. And it was quite early on. I was a director at a large urban teaching hospital where I was assigned accountability to turn around the organization's emergency department wait times. We just simply needed to do better by our patients and our families who were coming through our doors, doing better in terms of their experience, because at the time we were in the lowest quartile amongst our peer hospitals across the province. And the emergency department is really a barometer of how the rest of the system, of the healthcare system, is actually functioning. So in order to quote unquote kind of fix ER wait time issues, you actually need to go back and understand the workflows in every other department of the hospital. At the root of this, this was not about just changing metrics simply. This was about changing a culture and changing people's mindsets and also how they worked together every day. So we needed to provide supportive mechanisms to enable that. So we quickly established a team of what I call change agents, or a SWAT team, if you will, built in quality improvement training in-house for all staff and leaders in a rapid deployment approach, alongside with in-house built digital tools, toolkits, and reference sources to help our staff. Also engage cross-functional teams responsible for specific challenges within that kind of system throughput, and empowered them to define the issues and solutions that their teams would ultimately be responsible implementing for in rapid 90-day improvement cycles. All of this was culminated to a 62% improvement in less than 3 quarters of the fiscal year. This was then sustained over the next few years, and the approach consolidated into an accountability system that the board and the executive monitored, as well as creating an in-house certified quality improvement program accessible to all staff.
There's obviously a lot of opportunity to create significant impact with these first generation roles, but also probably a lot of significant risk that comes with that as well. So what advice do you have for women who might be, wary of taking on these challenges?
First and foremost, be authentic and true to yourself. Don't worry too much about overthinking what that means. It's the effort that counts along the journey versus just the destination. I think that having confidence in your own voice and your vision for a particular outcome is a muscle. So don't worry about making mistakes and taking risks or feeling like sometimes you're treading water, because these challenges, I guarantee you, as a mentor used to say to me, challenges are a gift that actually test and build your muscle. 2, know your why. And I don't mean just the why of the mandate, in your role, but understand your own personal why and trust it. What motivates you? What gives you energy? What inspires you? All these things will actually serve as an anchor during your toughest challenges, your toughest times. Don't be afraid of taking risks in your career, so long as these risks, you believe align with your intrinsic motivators. And finally, I would suggest my third piece of advice would be to have a trusted inner cabinet of advisors and mentors or sponsors, because ultimately they will hold up a mirror when you need to remember what you yourself are capable of, and the immense influence that one person can have on many lives when there is a belief in the art of the possible, and that it's steered by a strong sense of your why.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, a lot of resilience involved in taking on any kind of leadership role, much less these first generation roles that have defined your career. And I love that you emphasized having a trusted group of advisors, sponsors, and mentors, because it's so important to women at any point in their career, and even more crucial in these leadership positions that, as you said, don't have a roadmap or any precedents. So thank you so much, Miin, for sharing your experience and expertise. I so admire your trajectory and your outlook. So thank you for chatting with us today.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.